Welcome back, Camden Catholic. All right, so we have a flip to kind of wrap up the effects of global contact, right? So the main theme of this flip, and I want you to kind of jot this down a little bit, is like more along the lines of the growth of global economics, right? How people are going to now see this big, giant new world and using it as a way to make money, and how cultures are going to drastically change because of it, right? And the biggest example of how these things were made possible is this thing called the Columbian Exchange, all right? I don't know what it is about this concept that so many people struggle with understanding, but I guarantee you it could possibly be what was I going to say? I guarantee you that it could possibly be an extra credit question on this test. And it's just kind of weird that all you see moving right now is my eyebrows. All right, so if you muted that, that was probably a little bit of a weird situation. Now, the Columbian Exchange was an informal, write the word informal somewhere down, exchange of goods, right? So there are things that are native to certain parts of the world, right? So North America had goods that Europeans had never seen before. Not just Europeans, Africans and Asians had never seen before, right? So we've got 7 continents, right? Got Asia, Europe, Africa, North America, South America, Antarctica, Australia, right? So Australia, Asia, Africa, Europe are all on one side. Antarctica, you can't access. The other 2, North and South America, are over here, right? Wait. Is this the right way? Yeah. In your perspective? Yes, they're over here, right? So there were goods things that grew, things that were native to this place that weren't native to this place. It would be like, for example, if we discovered like an alien planet, right? They would have things that we had never seen before, right? So what would we do with some of those things? We probably bring them back with us, right? And then we might actually bring some of our goods over to them accidentally, right? Which it happened like almost accidentally. So some North American goods like corn, turkeys, tomatoes are going to begin to be exchanged for European, African, Asian goods like bananas, coffee, onions, I think apples, like all kinds of other crazy stuff, right? So if you look at this thing right here, but write this down really quick, there's a giant negative to this whole thing as well. Disease was a big thing brought from the Eastern Hemisphere over to North and South America. But look at all this stuff. Coffee, bananas, citrus, all kinds of other crazy awesome stuff. Honeybees, right, are going to be brought over as well. So, like, very, very, very intense goods. And this is a visual of it, right? These are North American goods, right? You've got corn, tomatoes, potatoes, right? Potatoes are from Peru. They are not from Ireland or Idaho, no matter what you think, all right? So, maple syrup, chocolate, tobacco. They existed in North America when the Europeans, like, stumbled upon these 2 new continents in the 1490s. They are then immediately going to be like, oh, dang, and they're going to bring this stuff home. Now, for extra credit, before the test even happens, if one of you can tell me, there are 2 items on this thing that you can't tell. So those are North American goods, right? This is one of the items, and the other one is this. If you can tell me what this is and this is in class tomorrow during the warm-up, I will give you 2 points back on this test for free. So if you can guess what this good is from North America and this good is from Europe, Africa, Asia. But you got citrus fruit, apples, bananas, whatever that is. More citrus fruit. Certain types of grass and wheat. Wheat was a big one. Onions, and then whatever this stuff is, and I'm not going to tell you. That came from Europe, Africa, and Asia, and then they're eventually going to be exchanged. And so Europeans are going to find new foods that are going to be very new to them, like pumpkins, peppers, corn, potatoes, right? And Europeans are also going to bring new animals, because remember we talked about how the natives did not have any beasts of burden or forged metals, right? So they brought new animals that the Native Americans had never seen before, and they're going to use as new food sources to help their diet and progress forward, even though disease is going to kill a lot of them, right? So horses, chickens, goats, cows, they had never seen these things before. It's a very big advancement, right? So these new foods and animals are going to establish healthier lifestyles, more balanced diets, even for people that were poor, and these new foods are going to be cheaper and easier to store. The potato is a great example. The potato became like the crop of the poor. That's why it was given to the Irish by the rich landowning English and Northern Irish to keep them alive, right? Because if I give them a potato, they can make more potato. That's why I have a potato growing in my classroom right now on the windowsill, okay? New foods are cheaper, easier to store. Life expectancy is going to increase. And this phase in history kind of marks the beginning of a population explosion, right? So And more population is going to grow. As more people are born, less people die. Also, because the plague's going to finally stop, and a lot of different other reasons, right? So right around here, you can see that we only had about, less than 1 billion people in like the mid-century, right, around 1500. And then look since then in these 500 years. Boom! It is shot up, right? It is 8 times itself. That is insane. Then you're going to have something else happen. The price revolution, right? You're going to see people move completely away from bartering economics, move completely towards currency-based economies, and you're also going to see it's going to bring around the laws of economics, right? Supply and demand, okay? And now the biggest laws of a commercial revolution, or the commercial revolution and its economic patterns, has to do with supply and demand. If your supply is up, that means your demand is down. But if your demand is high, that means your supply is down, right? So hypothetically speaking, some of these new products that were brought from the New World were low supply, right? Which means when people wanted them, they had to pay extra, right? So for example, in the Netherlands, they had discovered tulips, right, in North and South America. They brought them back over. They were like, look, we only have some of these, right? And they're brand new and you've never seen them before, so I could sell you this for a redonkulous amount of money. But then in the Netherlands, once they began to grow them and actually plant them, one tulip makes more tulips, a lot more at that, right? They make these little daughter bulbs under the ground. So they called it tulip mania, right? It was a big market bubble because the laws of supply and demand were working in conjunction with each other, right? There wasn't many of them at one point, so people were willing to pay a lot of money for them, right? Demand was high, supply was where? Down, right? And then when they flipped and there were a bunch of tulips, now tulips are super what? They're cheap, right? That was tulip mania in the Dutch Republic, right? So then this is going to happen, though. Now that there's all these new goods coming in, right? Especially this happened in Spain, right? This happened really bad in Spain. We're going to talk about this again when we get to absolutism in the next unit, right? But more money is going to begin to circulate through the economy, and trade's going to go up. Goods are going to be flying all over the place, but especially raw gold and silver coming in from the colonies made this thing called inflation happen, right? So inflation is a rise in prices because there is more money available, right? So the Spanish discovered all this gold and silver, and they brought in ridiculous amounts of it, right? So it caused very rapid inflation. It actually, in the long run, ironically enough, at one point, Spain was the most powerful country in the world, and then like that, they end up going, and they end up completely almost demolishing themselves because of it. It's crazy, right? Inflation was a huge, huge issue. Then the infancy of this begins to pop up, this idea of capitalism, right? Capitalism begins to pop up during this era and then going forward. This is like a result of us discovering all these new things. When businesses are going to begin to be owned privately, right? Not by a government. These people called entrepreneurs, or your business owners, are going to invest money, start companies to make profits, right? And this goes hand in hand with a thing that comes later on called the Industrial Revolution, because these new products are going to be coming in at gigantic mass rates. All these raw materials are coming in, so governments don't have the ability to process all of them, so some private owners are going to be like, oh, well, I'll start a factory, and I'll make these things, and who gets the profit? Me. And what am I going to do with it? I'm going to reinvest it into my business to make more money in the long run, right? So capitalism becomes a thing. But capitalism was directly in competition with this, mercantilism, right? So mercantilism, capitalism, exact opposites, all right? Because mercantilism is when a nation tries to export more than it imports. Export means to ship out, import means to bring in, okay? Well, in this conjunctionary phase, it also means at a third bullet point, a government wants to make as much gold and as much cash as it possibly can, right? Make more money. And you do that by limiting certain people from doing certain things. You use things like tariffs, right? Countries are going to use tariffs to make taxes on imports and make it so you had to buy locally used like goods, right? And if you want to bring in all this other crazy new stuff, you got to pay a tax on it, right? So the government is going to be profiteering off of it. Also, mercantilistic laws like the Navigation Acts of 1675, I think, is in the, in England. Oliver Cromwell issues those, making it so the British could only ship the British colonies could only ship things on British boats to kind of try and run the Dutch out, right? So mercantilism is your government-run business, right? Capitalism is like, stay out of my business, right? So this revolution is going to help countries like England and France make money while keeping poor countries very poor. So no, mercantilism is grow as much money as fast as you can and put it in the pockets of the government. Capitalism is grow as much money as fast as you can, put it back in your own pocket, right? So there you go, and that's it, right? There's some other stuff I could talk about, like the putting out system and things like that, but we're going to get to that later on when we get to like the Industrial Revolution, the Agricultural Revolution, and everything else, okay? Well, have a good evening. That's it. Super short flip. I will see you guys tomorrow.